What is up, guys? This is the Leafs Convo podcast presented by Oakridge Ford.
Nathan Jenner from Oakridge Ford. The 2020 models are rolling in, including the all-new redesigned Escape and Explorer. For a limited time, save big with Black Friday specials on all remaining in-stock 2019s. Like a 2019 Ford Edge SEL all-wheel drive, starting at $433 per month plus HST for a 5-year lease with $0 down. Oakridge Ford, where a reputation gets you here and the trust keeps you coming back. For full details, visit oakridgeford.com.
Black Friday deals run out in like 72 hours. Get at me in the community section for more. I'm Norman James along with Mike Jello. The Maple Leafs under Sheldon Keefe, 2-0, a couple of road wins, beating the Arizona Coyotes, then beating the Colorado Avalanche. Nazem Kadri, poor guy. The Leafs seem to be looking a little bit better there, Mr. Jello. Happy Sunday.
Hey, Norm. You can't sneeze at two victories, especially where this team was playing before, where they were struggling and I think put up good efforts and then lose games. So I mean, it's much better to have the opposite happen. Although I think importantly, the game against Colorado, they get a 4-1 lead in the first period. Colorado changes their goaltender. It seems to change the momentum of the game, and pretty much the second and third period was almost like a Randy Carlyle flashback where the team was, I think they were outshot like over 20 shots to like 10. Colorado took over, and they're a very good team. And Landeskog and Frederick Anderson saved their bacon. So, yeah. It was a victory, and they'll take it, believe me. But it was not as complete and as decisive a victory as it was in Arizona earlier in the week. Mm-hmm. But their schedule gets a little bit lighter and easier. Well, in theory, this week. So we'll see.
It's typical for a team to instantly improve when a coaching change has been made. There are a lot of factors for it. What have you seen over the past two games to tell you that this is Sheldon Keefe's kind of hockey, and Mike Babcock no longer being with the organization is a reason for this at least recent success?
Well, I think the one thing that anybody can notice just watching those two games is you had a defense that was a lot more active than it ever was under Babcock. I mean, you have guys like Tyson Barrie who are basically, you can say that you can call him a point forward or a dwinger or whatever you want to call them, but he's more offensive than the normal defenseman. So to maximize his value, you want him jumping into the offensive attack, and he did that on his goal against Arizona, and he did it again on the power play goal against his old team. So, I mean, that's taking advantage of his abilities, and I think you saw Riley and a couple other players like Dermott who are comfortable playing the style that Keefe played with the Marlies, jump into the offensive attack and be more in positions that you've seen other teams do, where they're down low or they're down at the face-off circle rather than being anchored to the blue line and not taking any kind of forays into the offensive zone. That's a big positive for them in terms of getting more offensive chances and on those chances.
Yeah, maximization, Mike, is a key word. It's refreshing and encouraging to see a coach come in and instantly get results from guys who may not have been utilized properly prior to him taking the helm. But where is this team's maximum in terms of capability?
Well, that's the $64,000 question, because, I mean, in the transition between Babcock and Keefe, the big question for this team is, are they good enough? Yeah. Do they have pieces that are necessary to make them a contending team? Now, I still believe, even though people were panicking when they fired Babcock, they were 2 points out of a playoff spot. I know they had played more games than anybody, but it wasn't a panic situation in the sense that they couldn't jump right back into the playoff picture. And if they, if the next game that they win, if they win that one, they're right now they're 1 point behind Montreal for third place in the Atlantic, so they can get right back into a playoff position. But the whole question is, do they have the right makeup? Yeah. Is there enough toughness there? Is there enough defensive pushback there? can they contend with teams like Boston or Washington or Tampa Bay when they get on the off the schneid? That's the big question. And I don't put it past Kyle Dubas to, if he recognizes that there's still something missing a little ways down the way, that he makes some adjustments. But that's the big question now.
Kyle Dubas has his guy behind the bench. It's Sheldon Keefe, who will prolong Kyle's general managerial career in Toronto or end it at some point, most likely prematurely in the minds of a lot of Dubas's biggest supporters. But now that he has his guy behind the bench, when his guy is calling for backup and new players and changes to the on-ice makeup, he's going to help him out, right? Why, if you have a head coach who you're parting ways with when shit hits the fan, as it has, would you continue to go shopping for him and get the stuff that he wants but you don't want? So now everybody's on the same page here. I mean, that's the intention, that's the hope. If Keefe needs something and this team needs to be bolstered, needs to be reconfigured, you have to think Kyle Dubas, at the end of the day, had better do it because everything's on the line now.
Well, the lines of communication are, I think, fairly wide open between Dubas and Keefe. I mean, I'm sure that even Dubas, indicated when during all the post Babcock press availability said, they don't agree on everything, but they agree on most things, and they see the way the team should play with the same eyes. So, I mean, once Keefe comes in and takes an evaluation of this team and looks at where he thinks deficiencies are, I'm sure that there's not going to be the hesitancy that there would have been with Babcock, because we know Babcock wanted to play a certain way, was asking for them to play heavy hockey when this is a team that is not a heavy hockey team, and you cannot change a team from being a skill speed team to a heavy hockey team overnight. And in the end, Dubas is not a believer in that type of hockey. He believes in what closer to what Keefe believes in. So I think, I don't think it's impossible that there are going to be some changes. I mean, Keefe knows more than half of this roster from coaching the Marlies. So I think, he knows the positives and negatives of guys like Nylander or guys like Kasperi Kapanen, and just will evaluate over time whether they are a right fit with this team. And that's after that evaluation, and probably before the February deadline, there might be a move here or there.
This roster with these players, whether healthy or unfit at this time, but coming back at some point, is this roster with these players, Mike, good enough to win a Stanley Cup?
I don't know.
Wow.
I think that they have.
I'm sensing.
Yeah, no. I mean, I have to be real. I mean, I don't know. Do they have enough offensive talent? For sure. But we know that winning the Stanley Cup is not all offense. You can look at the last two teams that won a Stanley Cup in Washington and in St. Louis. They were veteran teams that played with skill, but also played
never been all
a
offense,
tough brand.
You know that it's never been
right, and that's the thing. If it ends up being all offense, that will be that'll be you can't even say like the '80s Oilers or the Penguins with Mario Lemieux won with all offense, because they had veteran guys. They had guys with experience. They had guys who played with toughness. They were able to play multiple types of games, and that right now this team, I think, is mostly skill and not much else. But but I'll give Keefe a lot more credit. Guys like, Justin Hall have been given more rope. Guys like Jason Spezza have not been out of the lineup and has played well. I
love me some Spezza. I just respect the guy. Yeah. I like having him there.
Yeah, and right now he's playing in a position that he was not brought into play. He's playing third line center rather than fourth line center, with Kerfoot moving over. And I know Gauthier has played fourth line center. I don't think there's anything that was a certainty under Babcock that is a certainty under Keefe. Now, he had Gauthier in with the Marlies, and he used him effectively. But I don't know whether Gauthier is a NHL fourth line center. There's still a lot of gaps in his game. I don't think he can, I don't think he can score 10 goals in this league. And I don't know whether he fits into the, sort of the speed skill game. He's the unicorn on this roster. He doesn't fit the description of what this roster is. Now, they may want that, and they may want players that don't fit the current construct, but I think there's room to upgrade there from guys like Nick Shore and Freddie Gauthier.
OG's Converts, thank you so much for all of your support. Please like and subscribe to the Leafs Convo on YouTube. In community, I'll post a question, a poll. Do you think the Leafs are back on track with Sheldon Keefe, appointed head coach? He's the man now. Kyle Dubas has to support this cat, whether it be bringing in players from elsewhere or elevating Keefe's dudes from the Marlies. Do you think the Leafs are back? Period. Blank. Point blank. Are the Leafs back on track with Sheldon Keefe as the head coach? I'm not saying they're going to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, that should be the goal every single time these guys step on the ice in the end. But are the Leafs back on track with this guy as head coach? Just a few more minutes, and then we will bust out. You mentioned something at the beginning of our conversation. Freddie Anderson. I mean, without that guy, this team should be playing Senior A against the Tillsonburg Vipers. Freddie's steady, but if Freddie gets hurt, this team's in trouble no matter what.
Yeah, they're heavily dependent on Anderson to be. I mean, I thought he was close to being the first star. If he wasn't, I didn't see the 3 stars from the game last night. But I thought in the second and third period, he was the only reason that the Leafs won that game, because once they got up 4-1, I think they sort of tried to play more of a defensive shutdown game, and it's really tough to do that against Nathan McKinnon, and Kadri hit the post on one chance. So they had a number of chances, and it was pretty close down the stretch. But to your point about the backup goaltending situation, we don't know the philosophy of Sheldon Keefe and the organization when it comes to the backup goaltending situation. They have 3 games and 4 nights coming up starting on Wednesday in Detroit, and then a home and home with Buffalo. Sheldon Keefe had the luxury and had the situation where in the minors, the Marlies would sometimes play 3 games on a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So they would play their starter on Friday, the backup on Saturday, and the starter on Sunday. Now we have a back-to-back here, and normally it would be Freddie Anderson starting the first game in Buffalo on Friday afternoon, and whoever the backup is, whether Hutchinson or Kaskisuo, would play on Saturday night at home. I don't know whether it'll be the opposite, whether they'll play Kaskisuo, who is used to playing afternoon games at 4:00 in the afternoon on Black Friday, and then play Freddie Anderson at home. It's definitely something in terms of a change of philosophy if they do that, but we don't really know what Keefe is going to do.
Thank you very much for your time, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Norm.